Good evening, everybody, and welcome to another edition of Fantasy Football. My name is Scott Morganroth, along with my host, Ryan Skolrud, and my co-host, Alex Fleming. Welcome to the big show, Alex, or welcome back to the big show, or welcome back to you, Ryan. I know you had a pretty interesting adventure last week.
Yeah, it's always fun dealing with traveling over the mountains when snow is possibly involved. So, can definitely make for some interesting travel.
Well, I'll bet you got an avalanche full of information today, don't you, Mr. Skolrud?
I do. There's a lot to cover going into not only for Week 11, but there's a few teams on buys that are hoping to get some players back. So why don't we go ahead and hop right into it? Starting off with a team on a buy. The 49ers are actually hopeful to have Raheem Mostert, Tevin Coleman, and Deebo Samuel back for Week 12. Mostert I think is the Mostert and Deebo I think are the biggest factors here. I think they will really help out that 49ers offense. Mostert especially, the guy's averaging almost 6 yards a carry. At one point, I think before he came back for like 1 week and got injured again, he was averaging almost 7 yards a carry. One of the most explosive running backs in the game. If he comes back, that really helps out that 49ers offense and takes pressure off of whoever's the quarterback, whether it's Jimmy Garoppolo, Nick Mullins, whoever. Deebo Samuel is another one of those guys that he is just very, very versatile with the way that he runs, the jet sweeps, runs great routes. It helps that Brandon Ayuk has stepped into that role with Deebo Samuel out, has been doing a lot of the same different things. So when Deebo comes back, I see the two of them as in Deebo Samuel and Ayuk, again, kind of going to a split between the two of them a little more evenly. But as long as Deebo is out, Ayuk is going to be putting up big-time fantasy points because of his versatility. So, Broncos are likely to start Brett Rippon Sunday versus Miami. Drew Lock is dealing with a rib injury. It is not broken ribs. Just looks like strained muscles in his rib cage, but has been very uncomfortable for him. So, as far as the Broncos offense goes, I mean, Brett Rippon can be a little bit of a gunslinger, but that's not necessarily in the best sense. I mean, I kind of liked him coming out of Boise State when he first entered the league, but I don't see this being. I definitely see this as a little bit of a step down for this offense, going up against a Miami defense that, while they haven't been phenomenal especially in terms of like fantasy points, they are very good. They're about middle of the pack lately against wide receivers, but they do have a couple of really good defensive backs that can make inerrant throws, make you pay for inerrant throws. So. Getting into tonight's game that's actually going on right now. Chris Carson was ruled out again for Thursday Night Football, as well as Shaquille Griffin, and Quentin Dunbar. Dunbar actually was officially put on the injured reserve today, and they brought up Snacks Harris to put on the defensive line for Seattle to help out there. We talk about how bad, and everyone talks about how bad the pass defense has been for the Seahawks. And honestly, there is talent in the defensive backfield. However, they have not been able to get a pass rush anywhere. And most of the talent in the defensive backfield has been injured almost all season. I would love to see what would happen if you actually had Diggs, Griffin, Dunbar, and Adams all healthy at the same time with guys up front who could pass rush. Because if you have a decent pass rush but no defensive backfield, you're going to get 7-8 sacks like they did against Buffalo, and then give up 450 yards of passing, which is what happened. If you have a great defensive backfield but no pass rush, you're still going to give up 350 yards of passing because even the greatest defensive backs, you can't guard man on man for 10 seconds. You just can't do it. There's too much time for the quarterback to find the open receiver. So it'll be interesting if again, it's 2020, so who knows if any team will actually ever have a real great a real full team at any point this season with guys coming out, guys going on the COVID list, and I didn't put this in my notes, but look at the Las Vegas Raiders, who had 8 starters go on the COVID list. Now they're all eligible to play on Sunday if they test negative for the rest of the week. They were all just put on the COVID list because of close contact warnings. So that's another thing to be watching out for. That, man, it could be another huge game for Mahomes on Sunday with that many starters gone for the Raiders. Christian McCaffrey has officially already been ruled out for Sunday with a shoulder injury. Going up against the Detroit Lions and their leaky rushing defense, this could be a decent game for Mike Davis, so that's something definitely to watch for. To go along with what's going on in Carolina, Teddy Bridgewater is also likely to miss Sunday, so we're looking at a P.J. Walker sighting starting on Sunday. So could be interesting to see what he can do. I know, Alex, I know you've said before that you have some high regard for P.J. Walker.
Absolutely. Houston Roughneck. He played under Matt Rule in college.
Correct.
So it only makes sense that he gets acclimated in this system. And now that Teddy's actually sitting out, he doesn't have to bounce back in. He is going to be the man on Sunday.
Let's see. Joe Mixon misses another practice, leaving the door open for Gio Bernard to start again. I mean, you talk about a guy that's just been unable to stay on the field. Joe Mixon, I mean, when he can get on the field, I'm not the highest on Joe Mixon. I think that Joe Mixon is good at taking advantage of bad defenses, or taking advantage of good game scripts. But overall, Joe Mixon has never been a guy that I've been very high on, simply because his play when he's healthy is erratic, but he misses. I mean, this year has been crazy with how much time he's missed. Last year, he couldn't stay healthy, dealing with an ankle injury and a couple other injuries as well. So I personally I'm not really high for them on Gio for this week. While the Washington football team gave up a lot to DeAndre Swift, Gio Bernard is not DeAndre Swift. So I think we're dealing with a completely different animal. I like Gio Bernard as a kind of a fill-in, do it for a couple weeks. I wonder if he's starting to wear down a little bit. You've seen his stats wear down in the last couple weeks. I think he's a good change of pace back. And I think that he is, in the past, shown he's had a little bit of a hard time carrying the load for extended periods of time. So I'm not all that high on Gio Bernard for this week if Joe Mixon misses again. Sammy Watkins is set to return versus Las Vegas, which I think with Sammy Watkins, the number 2 wide receiver in that offense, he's obviously, for me, he's going to have a place in 12-team leagues and higher as at least a flex play, simply because of the opportunity in that offense. So DeAndre Swift did not practice today. Getting back to DeAndre Swift, did not practice today due to a concussion, which puts Sunday in doubt. So we'll have to see kind of what the game plan will be. If he misses, what the game plan will be for Detroit going up against the Panthers in their run game. And last but not least, Alvin Kamara misses another practice with a foot injury. We'll see what the practice report is like Friday or tomorrow. And if he misses another one, whether or not he'll actually be able to play against the Falcons on Sunday. They could just go with Latavius Murray. And that's my list.
Okay, Alex. What's your take on what Ryan is throwing out there?
A lot of things. DK Metcalf and Tyler Lockett average about 166 reception yards a game. Between them, they have 15 touchdown receptions. So they're going to be a very dangerous duo. But the problem isn't the offense. It's never been the offense with Russell cooking. It's been that defense who's leaky, to say it nicely. There has been injuries, but Bobby Wagner and KJ Wright can't do it all. The defensive line has been exposed because they can't stop the run, and they couldn't cover you or me in the secondary. They're going to have issues regardless if they beat the Arizona Cardinals tonight, because everybody knows that Seattle's going to have to win playing shootouts. Hate week. New Orleans, Atlanta. Alvin Kamara's playing. They're resting him. Don't worry about that. Number 2, it's going to be Jameis Winston. Why some people think it was going to be Taysom Hill playing quarterback, I don't know. Get your head examined. Get some aspirin. It's Jameis Winston. Number 3, Michael Thomas, Emmanuel Sanders, Jared Cook, Josh Hill, Taysom Hill. You know what New Orleans has that Tampa Bay still doesn't? An offensive line. Look for the man who had LASIK surgery to show out against their hated rivals, the Atlanta Falcons, for not 1, not 2, not 3, but 4 games. 2 against Atlanta in 3 weeks, Denver and Philadelphia. All winnable games. And Ryan was absolutely right about San Francisco. They've been plagued with the injury bug. After losing Nick Bosa and Solomon Thomas, and then the offensive line, and then Trent Williams, and then Raheem Mostert, and then Tevin Coleman, and then Jimmy Garoppolo, and then George Kittle, this is a decimated team. And they're on the outside looking in for a playoff spot because 1, 2, 3 teams in their own division are fighting for playoff positioning with a 3-way tie in the NFC West. Put a fork in San Francisco. They're done.
All right. Ready to talk about some football games?
Yeah, let's go for it.
Before we do that, though, I want both of your opinions about how you feel that Cam Newton performed against the Ravens, with New England obviously winning that football game.
You or me first, sir?
Go ahead. I didn't get to see much of that game, to be honest.
I love Cam Newton, and I love the fact that he's a new generation. He led for the new generation of quarterbacks today. Mobile, plus size, speed, cannon for an arm. I hate the middle school numbers. You can't be a viable quarterback in a Belichick system. I know that's the system that they run under Josh McDaniels. I'm fully aware. But 115 yards passing, 62 yards rushing with the touchdown, I mean, come on. That's a lot of smoke and mirrors. J.C. Jackson bailed you out again. 5 interceptions in 5 straight games. You know, that's a beautiful thing, but New England, come on. Let Cam loose. We don't know what lingering effects he's had from COVID-19, but this 116 yards passing with the whole 50, 60 yards rushing, guys, you have Damian Harris, 3rd-round pick out of Alabama. You have Damiere Byrd. You have Jacoby Myers, who was a quarterback in high school because he threw the only touchdown pass to Rex Burkhead. You have Rex Burkhead. You have Ossie. For the love of God, use these weapons and allow Cam Newton to cook.
All right. Let's talk.
Yeah, I'm with you there. I think that I've been amazed at how much they just haven't. I mean, he showed what he could do passing the ball, again, against a very horrible defense in Seattle. But he still has the arm. I still think that he can throw the ball. I mean, he's shown that he could throw the ball to Jacoby Myers over the last few weeks. Their use of Damian Harris, I think that he needs to be used even more in the run game. And James White, I feel sorry for James White. I mean, this has just been a rough year. Not only personal, I mean, obviously personally, and then just it feels to me like the usage that he has had or hasn't had this season, I think says a lot. Burkhead's been very, very basically taken over that pass catching role and has done a good job running the ball. So I think that Cam Newton should be let loose a little bit more and allowed to throw the ball around. Play off of the fact that you have a decent stable of running backs. So,
okay, very good. Let's talk about some games. One tonight: Arizona Cardinals, Seattle Seahawks. Both teams 6 up, 3 down. Don't know what's going on. Now looking at it, maybe Ryan is.
I am. I'm watching the game on my phone.
Okay,
as we're going. So,
give an update if that's the case.
Currently, Seattle is up 7-0. 25-yard touchdown to DK Metcalf earlier. The Seattle defense overall has been able to hold up so far. I don't count on that lasting very long. Not with Kyler Murray and the weapons that he has on this offense. So, I think this is going to be a shootout. The offense, the Seattle's offense, after putting up a decent drive or two, has been stalled the last couple. Offensive line is letting guys through. So, I think it's going to be a shootout. It's going to come down to the final minute, like it always does with Seattle games.
I always say, who's got Diggs? Who got Nook? I mean, they're still riding high off of that famous Hail Mary catch against the Buffalo Bills. DeAndre Hopkins is a problem, and he's starting to connect with Kyler. Before his connection with DeAndre Hopkins, he had a total of 4 yards. 1 pass to Kenyon Drake and 1 yard, 1 pass to Larry Fitzgerald. Once he gets comfortable, you're absolutely right, Ryan. This is going to be a shootout. The winner of this game is in the driver's seat in the NFC West. Because let's be honest, Seattle lost to the Rams. The Rams and the Arizona Cardinals have not played yet. Arizona holds the lead in that division by division games only. The loser of this game falls all the way to 3rd place. The winner, coasting. So, yes, this game is quite key. And the only team that could benefit from this is the Los Angeles Rams, because they're going to be stuck in the number 2 spot, regardless if they win or lose to the Tampa Bay Buccaneers.
Yeah, Seattle also has the rest of I believe they have the rest of the NFC East to play. I think they still have Philly. They still have the Jets. They still have I believe they still have Washington. So they have, if Seattle can win this game, they very well could win out with the rest of their win most of their games with the rest of the season. It still could be a very tough game against, another game against the Rams. So,
well, going into the weekend, they had 3 NFC West teams, has 3 of the 4 6-3 records. So when you watch them knock each other off, it's going to be interesting to see how this plays off with the head-to-head competition. It's hard to believe that one of those NFC West teams at the bottom of that division are the San Francisco 49ers. But when you consider the injury situation the 49ers have had, what do you expect? So the Super Bowl runner-up is at the bottom of the basement in this division for sure. All right, well, let's talk about Detroit Lions, Carolina Panthers. You talk about Christian McCaffrey being out, Teddy Bridgewater being out, and Matthew Stafford nursing a thumb injury. Who do you have?
Matthew Stafford has a thumb ligament tear, I believe, but he's still going to play. That lets you know how bad the quarterback room is outside of Stafford. Don't worry about DeAndre Swift. He does have concussion protocol, but this is the reason why they have multiple backs in Detroit. Adrian Peterson is quite familiar with the NFC South. He had a very short stint with the New Orleans Saints, but while he was with the Washington football team, he played the NFC South as well. Carolina has problems stopping the run. If you don't believe me, just take a highlight of a 98-yard run that Ronald Jones had against the Carolina Panthers last week. AP still got it. Swift may not play, and they still have Kerryon Johnson. The real issue is going to be Galladay and Jones, the corners for the secondary of the Carolina Panthers can't bump and run. If you get physical with them, they don't want that smoke. The only one that does is Jeremy Chin, but he's probably going to be stuck having duties covering TJ Hawkinson because the linebackers are undersized. Look for this to be a war of attrition. Once that secondary of Carolina gets tired, look for there to be bombs away. On that same token, Detroit's defense, man, no Christian McCaffrey, so that's going to be Mike Davis. Is he healed from that stinger that he had last week? Speed kills. Robbie Anderson, Curtis Samuel, DJ Moore. Oh, and by the way, Darius Slay is now an Eagle. He's no longer a Lion. So, what's good for the goose is good for the gander. Look for Detroit to exploit the run game advantage that they have. Look for Carolina with P.J. Walker to air out the ball.
Yeah, this is definitely an interesting matchup.
So who do you have? Who are you picking, Alex?
Oh, I like Detroit.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm with you. I like Detroit too. Again, with how just torched the Carolina secondary got last week. As long as Galladay, it looks like Galladay is going to be healthy and ready to go this week. Practicing 2 days in a row after that hip injury, so he looks like he's probably going to be good to go. You got him and Marvin Jones, T.J. Hawkinson, and like you said, the Detroit running backs have they've got a solid stable of running backs to be able to keep everything going. So. Yeah, Carolina has struggled against the run, but so has Detroit. Detroit, in terms of fantasy points, Detroit gives up the most fantasy points per week to running backs. Carolina gives up the fourth most on the season. So, both offenses should use the run game where they know that they can be exploited to enhance the passing game. And like you said, with the weapons on both sides of the ball in the passing game, this could be a really high-scoring affair. So I think I, as well, though, am going with the Detroit Lions.
Well, I mean, I'll make it a clean sweep, go with the Lions, as long as you have a guy like Matt Prater kicking field goals, as long as Gus the kicking mule, then you can never rule out a interesting finale, as we've seen, because Matt Prater, when he's on, he's on. And when the Lions give up a lead, they give up a lead. So, and of course, I think Matt Stafford will perform admirably well. But you have a top-notch quarterback versus, in my opinion, a very improving quarterback with P.J. Walker. The only thing you have with P.J. Walker is familiarity with Matt Rule. So I'll go with the Lions. Now, one of the more interesting games is called the AARP Bowl. Okay, when I say AARP Bowl, I say that this one's being done in Indianapolis, and the participants in the AARP Bowl are Aaron Rodgers and Phillip Rivers. So who do you got? You got the 7-2 Packers against the Colts 6-3.
I'm taking the Packers in this one. I know that the Indianapolis defense overall this season has been pretty solid. They have the, in terms of yards, they have the number one defense in the league. I don't trust. For me, I don't trust Phillip Rivers. I much more trust Aaron Rodgers. I mean, you just in something like this where it's two very good teams, it's you got to go with the quarterback. And Aaron Rodgers, I think, can pick apart enough of this Colts defense and this Colts secondary. Though, even though they have been very good overall in the season, giving up what was, I think, the sixth least amount of fantasy points to wide receivers on the season, they're the last couple weeks, they're about average in terms of giving up fantasy points to opposing wide receivers. So, for me, I think that Aaron Rodgers should be able to get enough done throwing the ball to Devontae Adams and to I think that Tanyan gets a little bit more involved in this game. Though Indy again has been pretty good against tight ends. They've struggled a little bit the last couple of weeks against tight ends. So I think that Robert Tanyan may get a little bit more involved this week. They're getting Alan Lazard back, hopefully, for this week. It looks like he might be activated, but again, we're not for sure on that. And Marquez Valdez-Scantling has done a pretty good job of coming out the last couple weeks. Again, being on deep balls for the most part. That being said, he's been able to get loose for him. So I think that, again, I believe that the tools that Aaron Rodgers has and the fact that he's Aaron Rodgers is a better indication of what's going to happen in this game than Phillip Rivers. Even though he has some up and coming players, I've got to go with Aaron Rodgers and Green Bay Packers.
Yeah, Alex.
This is where we disagree, and here's why. That Indianapolis defense is legit, and for those who haven't been paying attention, Indianapolis is 3-0 against the NFC North. They had 3 picks against Minnesota, but that was early in the season. They had a pick off of the Chicago Bears, and they beat down the Detroit Lions with an interception and a fumble recovery. By the way, the Indianapolis defense has 11 interceptions this year. You want to know how many sacks they had? Yeah. What's the weakness of the Green Bay Packers? Offensive line. Now, I love Marquez Valdez-Scantling, but he's been stuck on my fantasy bench. Devontae Adams is the one you want. Let's just be completely honest. Plus, Alan Lazard is coming off an injury reserve, so they're going to try to get him acclimated in the offense because they can't run the ball because Aaron Jones has been missing on the milk carton. Now, I don't trust Phillip Rivers. Anybody in their right mind doesn't trust Phillip Rivers. But you know what? If his kids are going to be at the game, he might just act right. He's only got 9 of them. Darius Leonard is a man. And that secondary is going to be ready for all that smoke that Devontae Adams is going to bring. Upset special. I got Indy.
And I'm going Green Bay. I like Aaron Rodgers. I really do. I mean, it's pretty hard not to like the guy. And my reasons for going for Green Bay is they want the NFC Championship game to be played at Lambeau Field. They really do. So what better way to go ahead and be motivated when you're in a cold climate for the frozen tundra, the Ice Bowl? The Packers got to win in order to gain that prohibitive advantage, especially when the colder months do come on. So I'm going with the Green Bay.
One last reason why I picked Indianapolis over Green Bay. The victory last week was a tough one against Jacksonville. That's because Aaron Rodgers is 8-6 against the AFC South. For some reason, the South gives him problems. You're in Indy, you're on the road, and you're looking forward to the Chicago Bears divisional matchup game. Trap game. That's why I got Indy.
Well, I'll say one thing about this. You and I, when we did this broadcast last week, you did predict a very competitive football game with Jacksonville going up to Lambeau, and indeed your prediction came to fruition, is what it did, and the Jaguars were very, very competitive for sure. But now, nevertheless, I'm still going Green Bay anyhow. But I just wanted to give you a kudos because that Jacksonville-Green Bay game, okay, was a tough contest. There was no rollover at all for the Packers. All right, with that said, let's go over to the Crab City where the Tennessee Titans take on the Baltimore Ravens, both going to the football game 6-3.
Handwritten ass whipping. Baltimore owes them one. Please believe this. Their running game hasn't looked good ever since Ronnie Stanley went down, and they lost Nick Boyle to the season for a bad knee. Have you checked on the Tennessee Titans? Because they've been losing a lot lately. And they're in second place now in the AFC South. Baltimore's due. They need to get back on the horse. The MVP, Lamar Jackson, there's a lot of whoop-de-woo coming out of the sides of people's mouths. And that running game is just now starting to get healthy. Look for Baltimore to lay a beat down on the Tennessee Titans.
All right.
Yeah, I think that again, the Titans, I think, can will move the ball against the Ravens. The problem is the Titans' defense is awful. They've been giving up things everywhere. So I definitely see that the Ravens are going to. I agree with you, Alex, that the Ravens are going to win this one. I think the Titans will be able to move the ball, not necessarily score a lot of points. But they have been able to move the ball against some tough defenses. So I think that's that they will be able to move the ball. But I've got Derrick Henry down in my rankings this week. Again, he struggles against tougher run defenses. So because of that, I think I have like Derrick Henry like running back 10 or 11 this week. I've had him down the last couple of weeks. So I don't think this is a great game for him. But again, I do think I'm with you. I've picking the Ravens over the Titans.
I'm going to go with the Ravens, too. The last thing they need to do is lose this football game and then lose against Pittsburgh on Thanksgiving Day and all of a sudden 6-5. So I think the Ravens need a win in the worst way. And go ahead, Alex.
I just want to mention that when Derrick Henry lines up against Baltimore, he's going to be facing some old division rivals. Calais Campbell was taken away from Jacksonville for Baltimore for a 5th-round pick. Ngakoue was traded to Minnesota, and Baltimore later picked him up from Minnesota for a 5th-round pick. So not only will Derrick Henry be seeing the Baltimore Ravens defense that he ran all over in the divisional round, but he'll be facing Saxonville and Calais Campbell and Yannick Ngakoue. They're not afraid of that Derrick Henry smoke, and they're well due. Baltimore all the way.
Great points there, Alex. Thank you for bringing that up. Again, my justification is simple. Okay, the Baltimore Ravens don't want to lose 2 games in a row to find themselves at 6-5, or it could be trouble. So, all right. Well, we're going to go to Mile High City, where the Miami Dolphins are 6-3. The Denver Broncos are 3-6. Boy, Brian Flores has got him playing pretty well, and Tua is looking pretty good. So, anybody that second-guessed that decision about bringing Tua up, as Gomer Pyle would say, shame, shame, shame. So, all right, Ryan, the left on my shame, shame, shame. So, let's get your take on these. Shame, shame, shame.
I'm picking the Dolphins. The Broncos have looked horrible. They haven't been able to get anything going on offense. Their defense has just been getting picked apart the last few weeks. Tua has really been looking pretty good. Again, he's another one of those guys that's not only able to throw the ball, but can run the ball well. So, and I'll be honest, as a Washington Husky fan, I was quite surprised with how well Savon Ahmed played last week. One of the jokes about Savon Ahmed his senior year, because he was actually, Myles Gaskin, both he and Ahmed went to the University of Washington. Myles Gaskin was just an absolute beast all 4 years. I believe he and Ron Dane are the only 2 guys to run for over 1,000 yards in all 4 seasons in NCAA football. When Gaskin left, everyone expected Ahmed to just take over and be great, and Ahmed did a great job of turning a 1,300-yard rushing season into a 1,000-yard rushing season. His lack of vision was just a constant thing at Washington, and he played really, really well. He's getting the bulk of the carries in Miami. If that continues, I think again that he is going to put up a decent amount of yards against this Broncos defense.
So you're going with Miami.
I'm going with Miami.
All right, Alex.
I love the Washington backfield in Miami. Look, the offensive line is ahead of schedule. Tua's had 91 yards, 248, and 169 with 3 W's. So he hasn't had to do much. Once they get Gaskin back next week, it's going to be gravy on top of the mashed potatoes. And it's an all-team effort. Special teams, punt return, kick return, defense, and offense. That's synchronicity. Brian Flores is probably the best coach to come from the Belichick tree, because let's not talk about Patricia. We've seen what McDaniels does whenever he's a head coach, and Joe Judge just fired Colombo in New York. With that being said, let's look at Denver. No Drew Lock, not that it mattered. You're starting Brett Ripon. He started against the Jets, and that was a shootout. Who is the running back to own? Is it going to be Lindsey or is it going to be Gordon? Does anybody care? Jerry Jeudy, where are you? I'm going to start calling him Scooby-Doo. In every way, shape, and form, this is the Miami Dolphins, and they're slowly accelerating.
And three coaches they missed were Charlie Weiss, Bill O'Brien was another one, and I'm trying to remember the other one that stands out that didn't pan out either. So I think Mike Vrabel is the only one that's turned out pretty well as well. So, but Bill O'Brien laid an egg. So yeah, Charlie Weiss, and then of course Romeo Crennel has not done an awful lot for me as well from the Belichick trade. So, but with that said, we got two more football games to talk about. The Kansas City Chiefs 8-1 against the Las Vegas Raiders 6-3. The Kansas City's only blemish obviously came at the hands of the Raiders, who decided to take a little lap around Arrowhead Stadium. And you have two coaches out there that were once on the same staff. I'm talking about John Gruden and Andy Reid. What's your take on that one?
Me?
Yep, you're up, Alex.
Okay. Upset special. Guys, take a walk with me on this one. John Gruden and Mike Mayock are trying to rebuild the Oakland Raiders. They got Tyrell Williams as the number 2 receiver because they thought they were going to have Antonio Brown. He ends up being crazy and is missing from the offense. Josh Jacobs, a gem, given from Nick Saban out of Alabama. Darren Waller resuscitates his career after fighting drug addiction and getting his life right. They go 6-10, I believe, last year, and they didn't have a number 1 wide receiver. Why do you need a number 1 wide receiver? To take the top over the defense, because the running game is going to pound you into submission, and the defense is going to bend but not break. Fast forward to this season, when they played the Kansas City Chiefs in Kansas City. Josh Jacobs had not 1 but 2 pay dirts. They picked off Patrick Mahomes for his only interception for the entire year. They were punishing the running backs of the Kansas City Chiefs, and Vegas led in time of possession. Plus, they had not 1 but 2 deep strikes with Nelson Aguilar and Henry Ruggs. That was in Kansas City. What in the hell is going to make you think anything's going to change when it's in the Death Star? I got Vegas.
Ryan?
I'm all great points. I'm still going with Patrick Mahomes and the Chiefs. And for me, it has to do with the fact that Las Vegas, for one, really struggles against tight ends. And so I think that Kelsey is going to be in for a huge game in this one. I think that Patrick Mahomes should be in for a huge game. Now, Clyde Edwards-Helaire is missed practice today with an illness, so it could be either him or Le'Veon Bell. That'll be interesting to see what happens there. But Las Vegas also bleeds points and yardage to running backs. I think if Kansas City can actually get their running game going against Las Vegas, I really like what they could do in this game. And again, a lot of this depends on, for me, a lot of the Raiders stuff depends on how many of those guys are going to come back, how many of those 8 starters are going to come back from the COVID list and all test negative over the next few days. So, and because of that, they all have to miss practice over the next few days. So, I mean, I understand they don't usually, it's a light practice Friday, no practice Saturday usually. So, but, that being said, there's still, it's still something for me, I guess, hedging my bets with the Chiefs because we're still not sure about what, how many guys are actually going to be able to play on the Raiders defense.
Yeah, I'm going to stay with the Chiefs as well. When a team loses to another team and you're talking about a divisional game, they get mad. The Chiefs are mad. I think they're going to take it out on the Raiders in Vegas. And the only craps table you're going to have will be what the craps that the Raiders may be looking at with the potential probability that they could lose a lot of players, plus an angry football team that lost to them. So I'm going with Kansas City. Our final football game we're going to talk about tonight, the LA Rams against Tampa Bay Buccaneers Monday night. Jared Goff against Tom Brady. And you know what? Tom Brady got his butt hammered to him on national TV on Sunday Night Football. We'll see if Monday Night Football treats him a little bit better. But can I tell you, once upon a time, though, this was a matchup. Earlier in the Buccaneers' existence was an NFC championship game matchup back in the day of John McKay. and Doug Williams. But speed the clock up, and you got Jared Goff and Tom Brady. I wonder if these guys even know who Doug Williams is, or John McKay, Ricky Bell. Those are those Buccaneers. Now you have a different set of Buccaneers. So who do you got?
I think I got to go.
This is me?
Is a tough one. I think it's me on this one. This is a tough one for me because of how well the Rams defenses play. Both the Rams and the Buccaneers have very tough defenses. I think, again, this goes to with the two defenses being as good as they are. I think the Buccaneers have more weapons to be able to deal with the Rams defense. So for me, I'm looking at it. I understand Ramsey is probably going to be on Mike Evans the entire day. The Rams' overall defense, their passing defense has been really good over the last few weeks, especially. So, again, I'm going with Tom Brady over Jared Goff. That's kind of where my head is on this one. And plus, with the fact that Ronald Jones kind of breaking out the way he has the last few weeks. Actually, really over this season, he's kind of had a few big breakout games, a couple of games where fumbles the ball, gets benched, and has to sit for a little bit. I think the Buccaneers overall have more weapons in their arsenal to deal with the Rams. I can see this going either way, but I think I'm going with Tom Brady and the Buccaneers.
Okay, Alex.
As you go with the Rams, Alex.
You're going where?
Oh, no. I got plenty to say about this.
Hey, Ryan, who are you going with on this one?
I'm going with the Buccaneers.
Okay, go ahead, Alex. You got plenty to say. I want to hear it.
All right. So right after the New York Giant loss last year with Jameis Winston, a fanboy site by the name of Bucks Report asked me how exactly can the Buccaneers beat the Los Angeles Rams in L.A.? Well, let me tell you what I told them then. Frustrate Jared Goff, crowd the line of scrimmage, shut down the running game, make Goff beat you. Score points on offense, touchdowns, not field goals, take deep strikes. Why? You only have one good corner in the Rams. Ramsey's not to be played with. Demetrius Williams is legit. He picked off Russell not once but twice. But that's all right. Tampa has too many mouths to feed. Chris Godwin's getting healthy. Mike Evans, Ramsey, fine. Let's put them to the side. This is week 3 for Antonio Brown under this offense in the tutelage of Bruce Arians. There's not enough corners on the team to shut down this wide receiver offense. And even if you did find a third corner, you got a mismatch at the tight end position. Rob Gronkowski is going to beat down any and every linebacker that the Los Angeles Rams have. Oh, and by the way, Rojo, third leading rusher in the NFL. That 192 yards that he had last week against the Carolina Kitty Cats makes him third in NFL rushing behind Dalvin Cook and Derrick Henry. So you got a running game to stop, a tight end that's a mismatch, and too many wide receivers for the Los Angeles Rams to slow down. Oh, and by the way, you have a quarterback that's on a mission who's 43 years old, who's a 6-time winner, 9-time participant in the Super Bowl, and beat down this Los Angeles Rams team less than 2 years ago. Bucks firing cannons?
Well, you convinced me, although I had my mind made up. I'm going to go with the Buccaneers in this game. I think it's a game within 3 points, so it's a very close football game. I don't see them getting embarrassed on Monday Night Football like they added to them on Sunday Night Football. And if Leonard Fournette could become a factor here, there's another running back that could make life difficult for the Rams. So all in all, I'm going with the Buccaneers as well. All right, guys, that wraps up the games we're going to talk about tonight. So, Alex, why don't you go ahead and let people know how they can get a hold of you?
Florida Sun, Central Florida's oldest black living newspaper. All I do is write sports columns. I'm going to be writing a new piece on the Pittsburgh-Jacksonville game, and I'll also be in Jacksonville this Sunday. I'll run into Allison Kohler, one of the female reporters making a name for herself on the scene. On Twitter, you can find me at ALXFLMNG, Alex Fleming, no vowels. Sports Arena, Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. Me and a couple of other sports reporters and bloggers just shooting the cuffs about sports, basketball, and football. Oh, last but not least, Skull King Sports. Very two knowledgeable gentlemen and Mr. Morgenroth and Skolrud just talking about the Week 11, Week 12, Week 13, Week 14 games, and so on and so on. Other than that, I'm a pretty boring guy.
Yeah, if you're a boring guy and Santa Claus is Jewish, God help me. All right, so. And not that I bring a whole lot of religion into this, but you left me wide open, Alex, for that one. So it is what it is. All right, Ryan, take it away.
All right, you can get a hold of me many ways on Facebook. We have multiple Facebook groups and pages. Just look up Skull King, one word, SKULLKING, Skull King Sports, and you will find us on all sorts of places on Facebook. You can follow us on Twitter, Skull King Sports. We're no longer Skull King Football. We're Skull King Sports. Follow us also on Instagram, Skull King Sports. You can follow me on Twitter at Ryan Skolrud. You can also find us on our website, skullkingsports.com, where we are giving out, where we're doing a whole bunch of fantasy football information. It's where we also have our podcast, where you can find that on basically every major platform you can. And yeah, I think that's about it.
All right, as far as we're concerned, you can follow us on social media on Twitter at Tribune Sign. That's the @ side Tribune South. So at Tribune South, the hat trick, as they call it in hockey. You want to make sure you get that one down. All right, if you want to go ahead and follow us on Instagram and Facebook, like South Florida Tribune, and that'll get it done for you. Our YouTube channel is South Florida Tribune. You have all of our great broadcasts from every broadcast that we have. Amongst some of those, we have No Limits, South Florida Tribune podcast, fantasy football, the real and the rare, the Sports Exchange. You get the drill. We've got plenty of good broadcasts on there from a lot of our different analysts as well. Find us on our website, www.southfloridatribune.com. You can also email that. Our website, by the way, does have this broadcast, the broadcast on there. So look under the WSAN dropdown. We have the Motor City Monitor, where we have a lot of stuff from Metro Detroit, state of Michigan, my hometown. So I'd like to put it on there for some of our transplants in the area. We also, media distribution partners are on there as well as our columnists. So we have an awful lot of good things, sports, national news, and weather. So we hope you have a chance to give the site a look. I know you'll find something very, very interesting. So SouthFloridaTribune.com. If you want to email us, SouthFloridaTribune@gmail.com, you can email us for any suggestions. We'll be more than happy to go ahead and take those and put them on the air. You can connect with me on LinkedIn, Scott Morgenroth. Be more than happy to connect with you there. And also, if you want to hear the audio version of this broadcast, you can do so through Spreaker, iHeartRadio, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Spotify, and wherever you get your podcasts. You can hear it audio, you can see it visually, and all I can tell you is I have two of the finest fantasy people on the planet, and I'm proud that they're on my team. They do a heck of a job week in and week out, so I couldn't be more blessed to have you. So since Alex likes to go ahead and we're going to give him the last word. That last word, Alex, is give everybody the old COVID message.
Wash your damn hands. Think about people besides yourself. Wearing a mask means you care about more people. Oh, and by the way, we're not out of the woods, but we can be. Just because we might be on different sides of the fences doesn't mean we don't share the same home.
You got it. He's got it. And tell you what, we're looking forward to our next Thanksgiving edition of Fantasy Football. This broadcast will be recorded on a Wednesday night. So we'll have a great helping of games and information, and Ryan Skolrud does a wonderful job putting together the best notes possible. So, guys, once again, you did a great job, and I'll be in Metro Detroit when we do it. But meanwhile, enjoy the games this weekend, and I'm looking forward to getting up to Jacksonville to rejoin Alex, hopefully by the end of the year, depending on what transpires up north and home. So, on behalf of Ryan Skolrud and Alex Fleming, my name is Scott Morgenroth of Motor City Madmouth. Thank you for joining us on this edition of Fantasy Football. And be safe, everybody, and have a wonderful weekend. God bless. Good night.